Rather amazing, classic, short play. You know, it is a relatively short play compared to a lot of Shakespeare's. But you know, there's so much packed in this shortness that it's much longer than it seems, I think. And as many of you know, I tend to make it longer than it seems, but sorry about that. Okay, so where we actually stopped, unless anybody has a question or a comment before we start. Anything? Anybody? No? Good? Okay. Where we left off was actually Act 1, Scene 3, and I know we did this speech, we didn't go over it at about line 125, but I'm going to set this up a little bit. What has happened, if you remember, is I was going to say Shakespeare meets the witches. No, it's actually Macbeth and Banquo who meet the witches, and they make their all hails and they make their predictions, right? Hailing Macbeth as All Hail Thane of Glamis, which is his title at the moment, All Hail Thane of Cawdor, a title he does not have yet, and then hailing him as shall be king hereafter, okay? And then they vanish. You remember they vanish. Of course, Banquo has said to them, hey, what about me? You said something about him. He doesn't say, what am I, chopped liver? No, he doesn't say that. But he does say, have you got nothing to say about me? And they do say in their cryptic fashion that they do see good, I don't want to say good things for him, but they nonetheless make predictions for him as well. Okay. Thou shalt get kings though thou be none, right? Lesser than Macbeth and greater, not so happy, yet much happier. Thou shalt get kings though thou be none, so all hail Macbeth and Banquo. And then Macbeth implores them to stay. I'm back at about line 70 here in Act 1, Scene 3. Don't worry about your scripts, because I'm just catching up and then we'll be on the road. Macbeth says, how can I be Thane of Cawdor when the Thane of Cawdor lives? And they vanish. Banquo and Macbeth look at each other, they joke around about, hey, I guess you're going to be king. I guess your kids are going to be kings too. What do you know, right? And the next thing you know, Ross and Angus, two other thanes, lords of Scotland, come in with the news that Duncan, the king of Denmark, has rewarded Macbeth and Banquo, but Macbeth in particular, with the title, the Thane of Cawdor. What? You can imagine the two of them looking at each other like, and Banquo says, what, can the devil speak true? In line 105. Macbeth says, the Thane of Cawdor lives, why do you dress me in borrowed robes? Heavy judgment bears that life which he deserves to lose. Whether he was combined with those of Norway, or did blind the rebel with hidden help and vantage, or that with both he labored in his country's rack or wreck, I know not, but treason's capital confessed and proved have overthrown him. So what do you know? The Thane of Cawdor either conspired with the enemy or whatever and have overthrown him. So Macbeth says as an aside, Glamis and Thane of Cawdor, the greatest is behind. Thanks for your pains, he thanks them. Then he says to Banquo, do you not hope your children shall be kings when those that gave the Thane of Cawdor to me promised no less to them? And Banquo says, that trusted home, if we believe that, might yet enkindle you unto the crown besides the Thane of Cawdor. But 'tis strange, and oftentimes to win us to our harm, the instruments of darkness tell us truths, win us with honest trifles, to betray us in deepest consequence. Cousins, a word, I pray you. And he steps aside as the page turns to talk to Angus and Ross. All right, and this is kind of more or less where we left off. I know we did the next speech, but that's what we're going to look at more closely and go forward. But very important that Banquo says this, that he said what he just said. The instruments of darkness, oftentimes, to win us to our harm, the instruments of darkness tell us truths, win us with honest trifles. to betray us in deepest consequence. When we're betrayed, the results are not going to be great. And this is just amusing, amusing, not amusing, that Banquo should say this. And then he goes to talk to Angus and Ross, and Macbeth is left alone. And Macbeth goes, "Two truths are told, as happy prologues to the swelling act of the imperial theme. I thank you, gentlemen. This supernatural soliciting cannot be ill, cannot be good. If ill, why hath it given me earnest of success, commencing in a truth I am Thane of Cawdor? If good, why do I yield to that suggestion, whose horrid image doth unfix my hair, and to make my seated heart knock at my ribs against the use of nature?
Where are we?
Present fears are less than horrible imaginings. My thought, whose murder yet is but fantastical, shakes so my single state of man, that function is smothered in surmise, and nothing is but what is not. And Banquo says, "Look how our partner's wrapped." Macbeth continues, "If you don't know where I am, I'm at Act 1, Scene 3, line 142. Okay, I think. Macbeth says, "If chance will have me king, why, chance may crown me without my stir." Banquo, still talking to Angus and Ross, says, "New honors come upon him like our strange garments. Cleave not to their mold, but with the aid of use." Macbeth, still alone, says, "Come what may, time and the hour runs through the roughest day." Banquo says, "Worthy Macbeth, we stay upon your leisure. Give me your favor, my dull brain was wrought with things forgotten. Kind gentlemen, your pains are registered where every day I turn the leaf to read them. Let us toward the king. Think upon what hath chanced, and at more time, the interim having weighed it, let us speak our free thoughts to each to other." And Banquo says, "Very gladly. Till then, enough. Come, friends." And they come. All right. So, this is officially where we left off, but let's look at the Two Truths speech. Again, one of many famous speeches in Shakespeare and in this play. So if you go back to line 127, I'm going to say a few things about it, because it's really important. This play is filled with doublings, twos, and threes, as we will notice. So here he's saying to himself, two truths are told as happy prologues. Happy meaning fortunate. Prologue, meaning what prologue means, as a prequel to the swelling act of the imperial theme. So these are all theatrical terms: prologue, swelling act, and imperial theme, the theme being king. Swelling means rising and swelling. In every way, your minds want to take the word swelling, and we'll get to things where you may take it that way too. Okay. And he says, "I thank you, gentlemen." And then he says to himself, this supernatural soliciting. Who writes this stuff, right? Not just soliciting, but supernatural soliciting, inviting, cannot be ill, cannot be good. If ill, and ill doesn't simply mean ill as in sick. It means evil, it means wicked, it means bad intentioned, right? If ill, why hath it given me earnest of success, commencing in the truth? Why is it giving me hope of great success, as in succession, going forward? Commencing in the truth, I am Thane of Cawdor. The guys just came and told me. If good, why do I yield to that suggestion? And now he's talking about what's going on in his head. whose horrid image doth unfix my hair, make my hair stand on end, and make my seated heart knock at my ribs against the use of nature. Present fears are less than horrible imaginings. How's that for a quote? Okay, take it where you will. My thought, whose murder yet is but fantastical. And we're going, murder? What murder? What, he's thinking about murder? Who's he thinking of murdering? He just came from war. He's just been killing all these people. But what murder is he talking about? Whose murder is yet but fantastical, shakes so my single state of man. And as many of you know, of course, the Elizabethan way of looking at things, the man is the microcosm of the state is the macrocosm, and the universe is the macrocosm of we small people on this little planet. But he's saying, shake so my single state of man, that function is smothered in surmise, almost sounding like Hamlet, right? To be or not, to do something or not to do something. Function is smothered in surmise and thought, and nothing is but what is not. Okay, and in the theater, we don't have time to parse it out and figure out exactly what that means, but we're left with nothing is but what is not. Banquo says, I think he's thinking about stuff, don't you think? Look how our partner's wrapped. Macbeth goes on to say, if chance will have me king, why, chance may crown me without my stir. Right? So for all that I'm thinking and feeling horrid imaginings, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. I don't have to do anything, right? And Banquo says, new honors come upon him, saying to Angus and Ross, like our strange garments, like foreign garments, like new garments that we were just given, cleave not to their mold, to the body, but with the aid of use. And who doesn't know that? I gotta break in these shoes. Yeah, I know that dress fits a certain way. Well, once I wear it a couple of times, it'll fit better, or whatever it is, or the whatever, right? Because clothing is such an important image in this play. And Macbeth closes his soliloquy to himself. Come what may, time and the hour runs through the roughest day. And apparently there was an old tradition from the late 1700s of taking a pause before the hour. Meaning the hour means the moment, the opportunity, the chance. Runs through the roughest day. Banquo says, Worthy Macbeth, we stay upon your leisure. Oh, I'm sorry, my dull brain was wrought with things forgotten. He's not going to tell him, you know what I was just thinking? I don't think so, right? And he thanks them both for bringing this good news to him. Let us toward the king. And to Banquo he says, think upon what hath chanced, and at more time, the interim having weighed it, let us speak our free hearts to each other. Banquo goes, sure. Macbeth says, till then enough, come friends, and off they go. All right? So telling us that even though Macbeth has been confiding in us or just in himself of what's going on in his head, he does say to Banquo, you know, after a little time goes by and we can digest what just happened today with the witches and me being named Thane of Cawdor and the battle we won and all that stuff, maybe we can talk. Banquo's like, I'm good. There are only flourishes for Duncan and at the end of the play, but you'll see there's no flourish for the son of King Duncan, attendance. And Duncan says, is execution done on Cawdor, or not those in commission yet returned? Malcolm says, my liege, they are not yet come back, but I have spoke with one that saw him die, who did report that very frankly he confessed his treasons, implored your highness's pardon, and set forth a deep repentance. Nothing in his life became him like the leaving it. He died as one that had been studied in his death, to throw away the dearest thing he owned, as 'twere a careless trifle. Duncan says, there's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. He was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust. And Macbeth and Banquo and Ross and Angus come in, and he finishes the line by saying, "Oh, worthiest cousin." Okay? And let's stop there before we go forward, okay? Because it's very important stuff too. Duncan said his execution done on Corder. We do not mean Macbeth, we mean the prior Thane of Corder, of course, right? And Malcolm, his son, says, no, the people who were supposed to come back and tell you the news haven't come back yet. However, I've had my sources and I found out. A lot of this play will be, unlike the modern world, about finding things out from sources that are indirect, okay? At any rate, he says, I've spoken to one that saw him die, and look at his description of how the Thane of Corder set forth repentance. Nothing in his life became him like believing it. And there's a note here which and especially in Shakespeare's time, the tradition was confess that you're guilty, even if you're not guilty, ask for repentance and all of that, and then put your head on the block. It's done. There's going to be no reprieve, sad to say. So, nothing in his life became him like the leaving of it. He died as one that had been studied in his death, to throw away the dearest thing he owed. Owed means owed. Owed also means owned. Okay? As 'twere a careless trifle. And the biblical saying, thou owest God a death, or thou owest God a debt, is something that Shakespeare uses in a couple of other plays. God gives us life, we owe him our life. So, there he was. And Duncan's comment to that is, you can't tell a book by its cover, but he doesn't quite put it that way. He says there's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. He was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust. And in comes Macbeth Banquo, and also the next thing he says is, oh, worthiest cousin. So an interesting juxtaposition that the next person to come in happens to be Macbeth. Don't read ahead, everybody. Okay. Oh, worthiest cousin, the sin of my ingratitude even now was heavy on me. Thou art so far before, the swiftest wing of recompense is slow to overtake thee. Would thou hadst less deserved, that the proportion both of thanks and payment might have been mine. Only I have left to say, more is thy due, than more than all can pay. And Macbeth answers in a similarly kind of formalized, constructed way, where basically Duncan is saying, I wish I'd caught up with you. Remember, Duncan, not I've caught up with you, but I'm sorry I can't thank you enough for all that you've done for me, actually. And Macbeth says, the service and the loyalty I owe in doing it pays itself. Your Highness's part is to receive our duties, and our duties are to your throne and state, children and servants, which do but what they should by doing everything safe toward your love and honor. Duncan goes, well, come hither. I have begun to plant thee, and will labor to make thee full of growing. Noble Banquo, thou hast no less deserved, nor must be known no less to have done so. Let me enfold thee and hold thee to my heart. A stage direction that Banquo and Duncan embrace, and Banquo goes, there if I grow, the harvest is your own. Well, how do I turn this light back on? There must be a way. Is there a way? Sorry, everybody. Here we go. Okay. There if I grow, the harvest is your own. And Duncan says, my plenteous joys, wanton in fullness, seem to hide themselves in drops of sorrow. Sons, kinsmen, thanes, and you whose places are the nearest, know, we will establish our estate upon our eldest Malcolm, whom we name hereafter the Prince of Cumberland, which honor must not unaccompanied invest him only, but signs of nobleness like stars shall shine on all deservers. He turns to Macbeth. From hence to Inverness, and bind us further to you. Macbeth goes, the rest is labor which is not used for you. I'll be myself the harbinger, and make joyful the hearing of my wife with your approach. So humbly take my leave. Duncan goes, my worthy Cawdor. And Macbeth, as he's about to leave, says, the Prince of Cumberland, that is a step on which I must fall down, or else all leap. For in my way it lies. Stars, hide your fires. Let not light see my black and deep desires. The eye wink at the hand, yet let that be which the eye fears when it is done to see. You know, I'm reading it in as spooky and foreboding a voice as I can, but let's go over what's being said here. All right. So let's go back to line 26 or so when Duncan says, welcome hither. I know you have to turn the page back. Sorry, everybody. You do. He says, welcome hither. I have begun to plant thee and will labor to make thee full of growing. He's saying to Macbeth. Right, I've planted thee, I've named you Thane of Cawdor, I have more honors in store for you, right? Noble Banquo, he says, thou hast no less deserved, nor must be known no less to have done so. Let me enfold thee and hold thee to my heart. Banquo embraces and says, there if I grow, the harvest is your own. If I grow in your heart, you get all the benefit. And Duncan gets... I think, I don't know Yiddish very well. I think the word is verklempt, when he gets choked up, am I right? When he starts to fill up with tears or something. So this is sort of, some people know. Thanks, maybe I got it right. Duncan says, my plenteous joys, wanton in fullness, seek to hide themselves in drops of sorrow. Meaning he's tearing up at how good everything is working out. And he's surrounded by these wonderful, loyal warriors, right? He says, sons, kinsmen, thanes, and not friends, Romans, countrymen, sons, kinsmen, thanes, and you whose places are the nearest, know. And he's declaring this. We will establish our estate upon our eldest Malcolm, whom we name hereafter the Prince of Wales. No, the Prince of Cumberland, right? Which honor must not unaccompanied invest him only, but signs of nobleness like stars shall shine on all deservers. So he's really declared here, and maybe we touched on this 2 weeks ago, I think, that choosing the next king in Scotland, they went through a process called tanistry, which basically was an elective monarchy. In other words, it wasn't automatic that the eldest son become the king, okay? So it was often done by council. But of course, if the reigning king said, my eldest son, I'm naming Prince of Cumberland, and that's the guy I want, you can rest assured that barring the unforeseen, he's going to be the next king. So he names Malcolm, right? And then he says, but all you other guys, you're going to get something too, right? And then he says to Macbeth, from hence to Inverness and bind us further to you. And Macbeth is like, meaning, let's go to your place to celebrate further. Macbeth says, the rest is labor, which is not used for you. I'll be myself the harbinger and make joyful the hearing of my wife with your approach. So humbly take my leave. Let me get out of here so I can go tell my wife to get things ready for you. Okay? And Duncan says, my worthy Cawdor. And as Macbeth is leaving, he says to himself, or to us, the Prince of Cumberland, that is a step on which I must fall down, or else all leap, for in my way it lies. So if we aren't clear about what his ambition is, it's pretty clear there. But then he says, stars hide your fires. Doesn't mean the stars are out literally, but he's saying stars hide your fires. Let not light see my black and deep desires. The eye wink at the hand, which means let the eye, wink meant sleep, or meant close. You know, the eye wink at the hand, yet let that be which the eye fears when it is done to see. You know, you read it on the page, it's hard to break up the syntax, But this is all part of the complex way that he wrote it, right? Yet let that be. I want this to happen that I don't want to see happen. When it happens, let it happen that way. And there'll be more of that same kind of sense to come. Okay? And he goes. I see hands up. Please.
I have a question. This aside about he's got to get rid of the Prince of Cumberland.
A little bit louder, I'm sorry.
He has to get rid of the Prince of Cumberland. Is this in his mind, or is it because of the witches put it in his mind? Was it there before they even saw the witches?
So the question is, and the popular one, understandably, and I could read a page and a half from the introduction here if you'd like, but I don't think we have time, are these ideas something that is put in his head since the witches said you're going to be king hereafter? Or are these things that he was mulling over in the first place? Okay? I will only say, I could give an answer, but I think we should let the play unfold a little more before and remain a little curious about that sort of thing. But it is a fair question, because as we talked about in the intro, are the witches actual appearances? They appear to Banquo as well and speak for Banquo's hearing as well. But are they really just projections of their mind psychologically? Freud wrote when, in like the 1590s, was it? Early 1600s was Freud? Somebody tell me? Hello? I'm sorry. Okay. But nonetheless, that's a fair question. But I'm sort of going to skirt it at the moment a little bit. All right? Okay. So where am I now? Yes. Oh, right. So he says, to see, and he exits. Yeah, but the scene isn't over. I'm right. Because the next thing we have, while he's saying that little soliloquy, those few lines, Duncan and Banquo are talking. And we don't hear what they say to each other, but the scene closes with Duncan saying to Banquo, "True worthy Banquo, he is full so valiant, and in his commendations I am fed. It is a banquet to me. That's after him, whose care is gone before to bid us welcome. It is a peerless kinsman." So what is he saying, right? We don't know what Banquo said. Evidently Banquo said more good things about Macbeth. And Duncan is agreeing, true with Banquo. He is full so valiant. And in his commendations, I am fed. Just like you said, the harvest will grow, I will reap the harvest of your love. Well, in his commendations, I am fed. It is a banquet to me. And of course, Duncan is making a pun on Banquo's name. I don't know that they're laughing, but I think there is a great sense of joy and happiness there, right? Let's after him, who's gone ahead, right, to bid us welcome. It is a peerless kinsman. If he is a peerless kinsman, how could he be a peerless kinsman without being king? The only one who's a peerless kinsman is Duncan himself. But he's sort of speaking it hyperbolically, right? Saying it's a peerless kinsman. Flourish, and he goes. Okay. Enter, and for latecomers, you didn't miss a thing, because Lady Macbeth hasn't appeared yet. Here she is. Enter Lady Macbeth alone with a letter. Okay? So, and we're going to read this and look at it closely. She comes in reading a letter. So, I don't know, does she come in, sit at her desk, take a letter opener, open it up, see what's this? Maybe. Does she come in like this in the middle and then start reading it aloud? I don't know. But nonetheless, this is what she reads. They met me in the day of success, and I have learned by the perfectest report they have more in them than mortal knowledge. When I burned in desire to question them further, they made themselves air, into which they vanished. Whilst I stood wrapped in the wonder of it, came missives from the king, who all hailed me Thane of Cawdor, by which title before these weird sisters saluted me, and referred me to the coming on of time with Hail king that shall be. This have I thought good to deliver thee, my dearest partner of greatness, that thou mightst not lose the dues of rejoicing by being ignorant of what greatness is promised thee. Lay it to thy heart, and farewell, Glamis, thou art, and quarter, and shall be what thou art promised. Yet do I fear thy nature. It is too full of the milk of human kindness to catch the nearest way. Thou wouldst be great, not without ambition, but without the illness should attend it. What thou wouldst highly, thou wouldst holily, wouldst not play false, and yet wouldst wrongly win. Thou'dst have, great Glamis, that which cries, thus thou must do if thou have it, and that which rather thou dost fear to do than wishest should be undone. Hie thee hither, that I may pour my spirits in thine ear, and chastise with the valor of my tongue all that impedes thee from the golden round which fate and metaphysical aid doth seem to have thee crowned withal. An attendant comes in. What is your tidings? The king comes here tonight. Mad to say it! Is not thy master with him? Who, were it so, would have informed for preparation? So please you, it is true, our Thane is coming. One of my fellows had the speed of him, who, almost dead for breath, had scarcely more than would make up his message. Give him tending, he brings great news. The attendant leaves. The raven himself, his horse, that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements. Come, you spirits, full of direst cruelty, make thick my blood, incessant passage to remorse, that no compunctious visitings of nature shake my fell purpose, nor keep peace between the effect and it. Come to my woman's breasts, and take my milk for gall. You murdering ministers, wherever in your sightless substances you wait on nature's mischief. Come, thick night, and pall thee in the dunnest smoke of hell, that my keen knife see not the worthy quarter, greater than both by the all-hail hereafter. Thy letters have transported me beyond this ignorant present, and I feel now the future in the instant. Oh, my dearest love, Duncan comes here tonight, and when goes hence? Tomorrow, as he purposes, oh, never shall sun that and your tongue look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. He that's coming must be provided for. And you shall put this night's great business into my dispatch, which shall to all our nights and days to come give solely sovereign sway and masterdom. We will speak further, only look up clear. To alter favor ever is to fear. Leave all the rest to me, and don't turn the page, please. Okay? So I had to read that through, all the way through, so you get the flow of what's going on. Also because I just couldn't stop reading. I don't know, it's so good. But a lot to unpack here, because it's really so great. So let's look at the beginning, Act 1, Scene 5 again. Looking at that clock. Oh, we're good. Okay. So Lady Macbeth is reading this letter. And, you know, does she have other letters? Is this the first letter? I don't know, but this is a pretty important letter that she's reading. And it says, they met me in the day of success. The word success, succession, success will appear in variations in the play. It has already. They met me in the day of success, the day that we just won the battle, defeated so many enemies. And I have learned by the perfectest report. Remember Macbeth had said, stay you imperfect speakers to the witches. But now he's writing, I have learned by the perfectest report. They have more in them than mortal knowledge. Now, by reading this, you could infer that maybe there was an earlier part of the letter, because he's saying they. Maybe in the earlier part, she'd already read the part about these strange creatures, that appeared before them. When I burned in desire to question them further, they made themselves air into which they vanished. Whilst I stood wrapped in the wonder of it, came missives from the king, who all hailed me. Now, all she's saying is what we saw. But as will often happen in real life and in Shakespeare plays, we will see events unfold, and then we'll see a scene where a character explains the events, how they unfolded, the way he or she saw them, or remembers them, or chooses to remember them, right? So, all hail me, Thane of Cawdor, by which title before these weird sisters saluted me and referred me to the coming on of time, with hail, king that shall be. Wow. Now, because we know Lady Macbeth, and we know the rest of the scene now, think how this strikes her as she reads this, right? This I have thought good to deliver thee, my dearest partner of greatness. He doesn't say honey, he doesn't say my dear wife, he doesn't say dear Lady M. He says my dearest partner in greatness, that thou mightst not lose the dues of rejoicing by being ignorant of what greatness is promised thee. I'm going to stop a second. Well, how many tenses were in there? That thou mightst not lose the dues of rejoicing by being ignorant of what greatness is promised thee. Lay it to thy heart and farewell. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. I didn't want you to miss a thing. I want you to share in this joy of what might happen. She puts the letter down, and maybe right away, either she takes a moment and takes it in, or the way I read it a minute ago, where right away she goes, Glamis thou art, and Cawdor, and shalt be what thou art promised. So she is confirming, aligning with what the witches predicted. Shalt be what thou art promised. Yet do I fear thy nature. It is too full of the milk